was kind of funny.
The Muscatine City Council will come to order. Welcome this evening, everyone. Fran, would you begin by conducting a roll call, please?
Councilmembers Lorette.
Present.
Fitzgerald.
Present.
Natfig. Shahade. Bynum.
Present.
Phillips.
Present.
Fred.
Present.
5 present and 2 absent, Your Honor.
Very good, Fran. Thank you so much. Folks, would you rise and join me in our Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and again, welcome this evening. If anyone in council chambers has an issue they'd like to discuss with council that is not included in tonight's agenda, now would be the time to come to the podium. So be it. We'll move right along. Item 5 on your agenda is the consent agenda. The following items are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes items 6A through B, items 8A through L, item 9A, filing of communications 12A through D, and tonight's bills totaling $1,400,597.21, as well as receipt summaries and journal entries for May 2013.
Move their approval.
That would be Jeanette.
Second.
Second, Tom. Any discussion, council? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Moving down to item 7, public hearing. This public hearing concerns an amendment to the 2012 Consolidated Urban Renewal Plan. The city has received a request for a potential tax rebate proposal designed to assist the owner and or developer with construction of new industrial facilities in the consolidated urban renewal area. Prior to consideration of a development agreement, the city must schedule a consultation with other taxing authorities. This has been done, and now the public has an opportunity to offer their input on the proposed amendment to the adopted urban renewal plan. Now is the time for the public to comment. Your name and address, sir.
My name is Greg Jenkins. I'm with the Greater Muscatine Chamber of Commerce and Industry at 102 Walnut Street here in Muscatine. We rise this evening in support of this proposal. We believe that this development is ultimately good for Muscatine, extremely good, that we seldom will see a development project like this come to Muscatine in the size and expanse that this is. We will see this project probably be larger than, very likely larger than any other that will take place in the state this year. This is going to result in an increased tax base for the community. It will ultimately result in more jobs for the community. Another couple of things to think about is that this sort of development does not go unnoticed by site consultants or those businesses looking to relocate to a new community. This will reach beyond Muscatine, well beyond Muscatine, and those companies and site consultants that are looking will see that we were able to pull off this development and that this size of development grabs their attention, and it's good for that case. And I can see this development increasing at least access to leads and increasing potential development in that area. So in that regard, it's a very good thing. This council has been very supportive of business in the past. This agreement to me looks as if it's typical in the numbers of dollars that generally get offered for a project such as this, and we believe that it does warrant your support, and we'd ask for that this evening. Thank you.
Council, any questions for Greg? Very good. Thank you, Greg. Yes, sir. And again, please share with us your name and your address, please.
My name is Kevin Shea. I am representing CAM2 Warehouse Incorporated.
Welcome, Kevin.
In addition to my oral comments, we do have and comments that we would like to submit to the council, mayor, and to the city.
Thank you.
Nope, that's, do you need that to read? Okay, thanks.
I don't intend to read that.
Kevin, we'll need you to speak into the microphone.
I don't intend to read the letter to you. I
Okay.
wouldn't insult your intelligence in that regard, but I do think that a few things need to be pointed out about this project that the council really should consider and consider greatly. This is we're on the public hearing on the amendment to your urban renewal plan. And I think when the city looks at that, I'm assuming that you're not looking at having to rehabilitate a blighted area or a slum area, that you're looking at this solely from the aspect of whether or not this is an economic development area. I think it's important for you to look at, in considering that, whether or not this use is a necessary use for the city of Muscatine, and we would submit to you that it isn't. Mr. Civic or whatever, Wall, excuse me if I forget the name of his company that's doing the development, he is going to build a 576,000 square foot warehouse facility. CAM 2, which has been in Muscatine since 1976, currently operates about 1.25 million square feet of warehouse space in your city. We employ over 60 people in the Muscatine area. This building is being built solely for one customer, and that's Grain Processing Corporation. Currently, we are the company that provides warehouse and transportation service to Grain Processing Corporation, and we provide it here in Muscatine. When Mr. Civic builds his building and Grain Processing shifts its products to that building, that is going to empty a similar amount of space in our buildings. And it's going to idle the same number of people, if not more, than Mr. Civic's going to be, says he's going to be hiring for his facility. You have warehouse space here in Muscatine, and you have a lot of it. There's been 180,000 square feet empty building, the Prenium building in Progress Park, that sat for, what, 5-6 years empty. This isn't a question of additional space being required. We've got the space, we provide it. I think our service record for GPC speaks for itself. This is just a matter of competition in the marketplace. We have another warehouse transportation company wanting to come in to compete with us, and they're asking you to help them out financially. They're asking you to give them a leg up. $5 million to compete with one of your own companies in this town. Is that something Muscatine needs? Is that something that you want to do for your existing businesses? We were told that the reason for the move was essentially a cosmetic one, that our buildings didn't look nice. Well, if the city of Muscatine wants to give us $5 million, we can definitely put a nice veneer on all of our buildings, and they will definitely look brand new, sparkling, attract anything. As far as attracting new business to this town, the company that's going to have to do it isn't the company that's going into that 576,000 square feet. They already got that customer. We're the ones that are going to be stuck with bringing in the new business, and we're not getting a dime of assistance from the city to do it. We have to fill our 576,000 empty square feet that we'll have. So when you look at whether or not this economic development is a good thing for the city of Muscatine, please consider the impact it's going to have on your existing businesses here in Muscatine. It's not a win-win-win. Somebody's going to pay, and there's going to be some people left unemployed. There's just no way around it. And will they all go to the new place? I doubt it. The headquarters of the civic operation is in Walford, Iowa. All the clerical work, all the management is going to come now from Walford, Iowa. Our current clerical and management is provided here in Muscatine. Those jobs aren't going to be replaced. You're not going to get people coming into Muscatine from Walford to do the jobs those people are doing here in Muscatine. Now, if that's economic development for Muscatine, then I think you probably are justified in amending your urban renewal plan. But I think if you think about it, if you look at the specifics, if you look at whether or not this is a good thing for Muscatine, that this doesn't fall within the requirements of an economic development zone. Thank you.
Council, any questions for Kevin while he's at the microphone? Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone in council chambers care to respond? Very good.
Could you tell me the address, the location of those warehouses? I don't know exactly where they are.
Of the CAM 2 warehouses?
Yeah, that he's talking about.
The main office is at 6110 49th Street South. They're in Progress Park, just about 3 blocks down from where this one's being constructed. We have how many buildings? A through I.
Kevin, I'm sorry, but for the record, we have to record you via the microphone.
I should know better. Now, the address of the CAM 2 warehouses is 6110 49th Street South in Muscatine. There are 13 buildings that we have. They're all mostly connected, and they service at that location, I believe, almost 100% GPC products. And it is only maybe 2.5 blocks to the site that is currently being built for this warehouse.
How many employees do you have?
We have over 60 employees in the Muscatine area.
Do you currently, I just scanned this a little bit. Do you currently work with Mr. Shahade?
Mr. Shahade is the transportation director at Grain Processing Corporation. He is CAM 2's contact person and negotiates the contracts with us for GPC. I'm assuming he'll be doing the same thing with Mr. Civic's companies.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else, council?
So have you been given notice that you will no longer have the contract?
Yes, our contract was, we negotiated a 1-year contract with them back in January. We were told just before the ground was broke on this new site that we would not be being renewed. So the end of January of 2014, our contract is terminated.
What's the, I forget the correct term, but is there a 90-day clause or something for GPC to get out of a contract with an individual, a company like yours?
Our contracts have always been kind of, they have a time frame in them, but the previous contracts all had kind of a 180-day out clause.
Okay.
Our contract is a service contract. It just says that we agree to provide service for them for their products that they send us, and send them where they want us to. If they don't send us any product, which I suppose they could do, we won't make any money.
Failure to have product to send on would mean you're probably not
That
working any
terminates
longer.
effectively, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else, council? Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Once again, anyone else, council chambers, care to speak? Is there a motion to close?
So move.
Be Bob in a second.
Second.
Tom? Okay, discussion has already taken place, so this is a voice vote, folks. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Item B, This public hearing concerns a proposed development agreement. A request has been received for a proposed tax rebate proposal for the construction of a new industrial facility in the consolidated urban renewal area. Prior to the consideration of a development agreement, the city conducted a consultation with other taxing authorities and scheduled a public hearing on a proposed amendment to the adopted urban renewal plan. This public hearing is necessary to provide the public an opportunity to offer input concerning a development agreement utilizing tax increment financing. Now is the time for the public to comment. Is there anyone that would like to speak? Kevin, you would like to,
Again, my name's Kevin Shea. I'm representing Cam 2 Warehouse at 6110 49th South in Muscatine. Our comments regarding the proposed development agreement go specifically to Section 1 of the agreement, where the City Council is making findings that the project will add diversity and generate new opportunities for Muscatine and Iowa economies, and that the project will generate public gains and benefits, particularly in potential creation of new jobs, which are warranted in comparison with the proposed financial incentives. I'll be repetitive because obviously I mentioned these things before, but we do not feel that the project adds any diversity to the city of Muscatine. You have adequate warehouse facilities already in the city. More of the same is not diversity. It won't generate any new, the project won't generate any new opportunities itself, other than forcing the other businesses in the city to have to go pursue new opportunities. If there is to be a TIF or money granted to anyone for generating the new opportunities, it should be Cam 2, not Wallview Development. The project, it does not, and I don't understand how anyone could think it would, generate new jobs. New jobs for a new company, for taking existing jobs from an existing company, is not creating new jobs. It is simply forcing another company to compete on an unequal playing field. In a way, you guys are kind of picking and choosing which competitor for GPC's business gets an edge. You're going to give Wallview Development Company $5 million to come in and compete with us. We've been paying taxes in your city for 20 years on over 1.25 million square feet of warehouse space. That's a lot of tax dollars that we've paid in already. And instead of getting the full tax amount from Wallview Development, you're going to give them $5 million back, which is kind of, in a way, our own tax money. And you're making us help pay our competitor to come in for a better deal. Now, competition's great. They come in and compete with us, we lose, that's how it goes. But we need to be competing under the same set of rules in the same playing field. If Wallview Development is getting a tax break just to be able to come in and compete with us, that's just not fair. It's just not right. Wallview Development's going to build this project, whether you give them $5 million or not. They've already broke ground. The same situation we had several years ago when we bought some property that had a foundation in, and we came and asked for some tax money. We were turned down because construction had started. Why does Wallview Development get a better deal? Because they're not from Muscatine? I think you need to think long and hard about this and what you're going to tell the other businesses in town. What are you telling Cam 2? Should we stay here, or should we go someplace where we can get TIF money? Things to think about. Thank you.
Anyone have questions this go-around for Kevin?
Go ahead.
I did have a question, and I think you answered it, but my question was going to be, had CAM2 ever applied for a TIF benefit before? And you're telling me you have. Now, as I understand it, the TIF benefit is restricted to certain infrastructure improvements. Am I mistaken?
We, back in, you'll have to forgive me on the time frames, I think it was about 2006. We bought the Newcomb properties that had 2 buildings existing and a foundation for a third. We put up that third warehouse, and we came in and asked for TIF money to put that up, and we're told we could not get it because the foundation was already in the ground, even though we didn't put it in.
Sure, I understand that. I guess my question is, would that have been an eligible TIF expenditure?
For the facility?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think another point I'll make, although I'm not, and maybe Greg can enlighten a little more, he made a comment to me when I was talking to him briefly. We have built a new building in Progress Park since 2006. And we did receive the tax benefit that comes with your industrial park development. But I believe that the TIF program that is being offered to Wallview Developments is even a better benefit to the buyer than our Progress Park development was. So again, we're not on the same playing field. And that's all we ask. You know, we're not asking you to tell Wallview not to come into town or to keep them out to give us an advantage. We're more than willing to compete with them. Just don't help them. If you're not helping us, don't help them. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Greg?
Just to clarify, some years back, and Steve can tell me the exact date perhaps, but the city was asked to take Progress Park out of the TIF district and make it a tax abatement area. So currently, projects in Progress Park are eligible for tax abatement. They're not eligible for the city's TIF program. I don't remember exactly when that was. 2006, and maybe that was the impetus for it. But the business at the time felt that it was a better benefit to go with tax abatement over TIF. But presently, Progress Park is a tax abatement area rather than a TIF within the TIF district.
So what does the abatement amount to, as a comparison to what the TIF? Is that
Steve,
something that
you
you would have any information on readily on the top of your head?
Well, I don't have that directly in front of me. It is a declining scale. It's 80%, 80%, 60%, 60%, 40 down to, and I think it's a 10-year declining scale. But again, that's abatement. So the difference is the taxes you would pay in are forgiven as opposed to paying the taxes in and getting the check back in the form of a rebate. That was a decision collectively made on behalf of Progress Park at the time to request that that be removed from the TIF area and placed into an abatement area, revitalization area, if you will. And that's what happened at their request. It was in a TIF area before that. The request made to accommodate that interest at that time. I think the parties that were involved in a project, an industrial business in Progress Park, did the math and figured that the abatement was better for them. So that's the reason they asked for that to be changed to revitalization, and that's where we are. This is still in, the area that we're talking about tonight is still in the original TIF area, the south end TIF area, the same one that Newcomb, Curry, A&E, all of those other businesses have used. And so has CAM2. CAM2 has used that on Hauser Street for what we all refer to as on-time delivery. I think they received either an abatement or a rebate on that property. I recall something being filed on that.
And the Newcomb property that's being referenced that they purchased, is that the one on Hauser and the bypass?
I'm not sure. That was at one time in an enterprise zone that was a Muscatine County enterprise zone as opposed to a city one. That be part of the confusion. But please recall, regardless of what program you act on, you go back to a window, back to January 1 of a taxable year to determine pre-existing values, and you can only capture the increment on the improvements. You either capture a rebate or an abatement on those improvements past that January 1st or whatever year you start. So if the foundation's there and it's already on the books as an assessed value of pick a number, then you can only move forward with the increase in value from that point to capture something. You can't backtrack and pick up something else.
Right.
So that might have also been one of the issues that, without knowing any more than I do, I'm sure Mr. Shea's right. I'm just saying that could explain what happened. I do recall that we, the city, do not have a revitalization. There was a county-wide enterprise zone for that area, not a city one.
Because there was a question when Newcomb went down to their new facility, they thought they were going to have the same deal, so to speak, that they had at their other facility. And when they got down there and they didn't receive a check, or basically they found out they weren't getting any money, then is when we had a discussion with them,
That's correct.
if I remember correctly. So,
I don't know if that answers your question or.
kinda.
And as well as our trigger for doing any site work or any related work has always been once the in-depth session with City Council has been held to review the proposed TIF agreement. That's been our trigger for doing any site work.
So have I got this right?
Developer would be doing site work.
That the subject parcel we're talking about is not eligible for the Progress Park tax abatement program, but it is eligible for TIF and
Correct.
vice versa.
Yes.
Is it reasonable to assume that when the Newcomb buildings were built, somebody got a tax abatement? No? I don't know.
There was some sort of an agreement,
Yeah.
but it wasn't
There
TIF.
was, but I think it was a county
was a county, not a
revitalization
city.
area, so it would have been
Right.
an abatement as opposed to a rebate,
Right.
which is what we're talking about.
But there was a tax benefit paid at some point.
Yes, not directly. It was eligible, at least I don't know, because it was outside of our city direct review. It was a county-wide one.
Any of the facilities within the Progress Park now or that land are eligible for the tax abatement program, whether that's new construction or adding on or whatever it might be, improvements that generate new tax dollars.
Tax increment.
Tax increment.
As an example, if CAM2 elected to make improvements to their buildings, if that's what they wanted to do, build new buildings, they're eligible for abatement under that program. If they petition for it, meet the threshold requirements, they're as eligible as anybody else in Progress Park.
And depending on what the abatement, the value of the abatement might be less than what some of the TIF.
Sure, that's
packages
usually
that
left
have
up to
been
the folks that are
extended.
closer to that than I am. They determine what financially is best for them. But in this particular case, the only benefit extended in Progress Park is abatement versus rebate, which is where we are with this program tonight. And if you understand how they work, they compete against each other. You can't offer both. You can forgive taxes or you could rebate taxes, but you can't forgive and rebate because they work against each other.
And this development that is currently underway is outside of the Progress Park area and therefore is not part of an abatement.
It is in the south end TIF zone.
It is in the south end TIF.
Yes.
Okay,
As is A&E, Newcomb, Curry, the rest of them, they're all south end TIF.
okay. And we're not necessarily altering the area to put it in the TIF
No, we're not.
either.
The area
So
has
it's already
been
been done.
in existence since the early 2000s.
Right, yeah, okay. I think-
Anyone else, council? Thank you, Steve. Anyone else in council chambers?
Greg Jenkins with the Greater Muscatine Chamber of Commerce and Industry. I'll be brief because I like Kevin, to just soon not be repetitive, but we do believe that this development will drive increased economic development throughout that part of the community. This will shine a bright light on Muscatine. I believe that when Mr. Civic came in and met with the council previously, he left here fully expecting that, or under the impression that this would go through, and we hope that that is the case, that the council will follow through with that. It speaks volumes to those who want to do economic development, that the council will follow up on what they say they're going to do. And this council has a great reputation for being friendly to business and wanting to drive economic development. We look forward to that continuing. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Okay, we need a motion to close. Tom?
Move to close.
Was that you, Tom? Second? Second, Bob? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, from the mayor. Presented for city council's consideration is a request to approve the recommended site and concept of a proposed band shell on the riverfront. Mayor Hopkins presented his proposal to the Recreation Advisory Commission in February 2013. The commission approved the proposed band shell with some stipulations. A presentation was made to City Council at its April in-depth meeting, which was followed by a presentation to the Zoning Board of Adjustment. The board approved the proposed band shell. At this time, City Council is being asked to approve the recommended site and concept of the proposed band shell on the riverfront. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved.
I think I heard Mark over there and Jeanette for a second. Discussion, council. Questions?
I have, in reviewing the plans and hearing the discussion earlier at an earlier meeting, being around here as we've taken things off the riverfront and so forth and made way for what we currently have, it's my feeling that previous councils have looked to maintain a very open area with limited trees, limited obstructions to viewing the river. I'm not opposed to the armadillo, glass armadillo, or whatever you want to call it.
For the record, can we not call it that?
Well, that's
Just
what's
call
on
it a
the-
band shell.
That's what's on the sheet. But the band shell, I've always, Ames, Iowa, where I'm from, an area anyway, has a band shell. Been there a long time. There's one in Nichols over there, the typical band shell. But I go back to wanting and the riverfront to be still open. I have a problem with the possibility of vandalism on a glass structure in the Muscatine that the citizens of Muscatine are going to have to take care of. So I probably am not going to support this being placed on the riverfront for those reasons.
Okay, Tom Bankhead is with us tonight. He is the chosen architect, and we talked about the glass issue before council, the meeting began. Tom, you want to address that?
Yes, I'm Tom Bankhead from 204 East 2nd Street here in Muscatine. The glass panels are 9/16 thick, and they are both laminated and tempered, and they're somewhat bulletproof. It depends what kind of size of gun you have, but these panels actually are stronger than steel, and there are. I've been trying to get a sample of it because I know every place I go, they say they don't have a clue of what I'm talking about. But these panels are very, very, very tough. That's the least of my worries about this particular project is breakage of glass or the thing being tough enough.
I would point out, as I did to Councilman Bynum before our meeting began tonight, catty corner from City Hall is Central State Bank, and roughly 1/3 of its exterior surface is the very glass panels, with the exception of the dimensions that we're talking about, as is the Figge Museum or Art Center in downtown Davenport, which is 100% skinned with this tempered glass.
But tempered glass, if my understanding is correct, having done, I understand tempered glass, you can hit the face with a hammer. It's not going to break. hit the edge.
It's the edges.
And laminated would help with that, because if you only hit one edge, it's only going to shatter on one side, and the lamination will hold the glass, the shattered side to the solid side yet.
Yes.
But with exposed edges that I think I saw on here, there's issues there.
Yeah, the exposed edges on the upper panels, that's true, that is exposed edges. The lower panels up to 8 foot 6 inches high have a trim piece that protects the edges for that reason. And as far as the concept of having a band shell, I've seen the band shells you're talking about, and my concern is a band shell really isn't used very much because it's tough to get somebody talked into taking a chance on rain. And so when you go to these cities, they have these band shells. The only one that's really booked up, I think, is the one in Millennium Park in Chicago. And they have a glass doors that close and open. And they were $100 million of overage and 3 years of overage. But my concern is we put a band shell, and I've seen some really ugly ones. They can be very, very boring and kind of a distraction. But if you have a piece of art there, there's something that is really sparkles and brings people actually to just to look at it. It can really be quite an addition to the community of Muscatine, I think, all the time, not just when we're using it.
Yeah. Well, I agree with you. I mean, the design, it's a unique design.
Yeah, there's nothing like this anywhere in the world, really isn't. And it would be, people would come to take a look at it.
Okay.
Anyone else, Council?
Your Honor, I do have a few comments. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that all we're doing is approving the site. We're not approving the composition of the shell itself.
Site in
Right in the basic design, Mayor Hopkins still has several steps he'll have to take subsequently, obviously funding being one of those. Site and the site plan review committee, construction drawings for review of community development. There's obviously a formal bid process as well. Construction drawings have to be signed by the architect and finalized. You haven't made it to that step yet, but
no.
Tonight's agenda item, Mayor Hopkins was looking for site and design approval, the basic design.
So we're talking about construction, not the plannings, the landscaping. It's just the band shell site. The band
Yes, that's
shell.
my understanding. It's my understanding that
Right.
landscape
Right.
still needs to be
And
figured out.
The drawings that council has in front of them, tonight's the first time I've seen these drawings as well. You see a lot of trees, particularly on the front page. It's my opinion, and I'll get a variety of opinions, I'm sure, that there are probably 50% more trees in this picture concept than what is necessary. I've had a few comments from folks saying, well, we won't be able to see the river when we're coming up River Drive, the Mississippi Drive, the part of the corridor project. Well, I don't, if I'm going the other way, I don't want people looking at the river when I'm going at them in my car anyway. That's what we have a very nice riverfront for, is for people to pull to the riverfront and to look at the river. So I tend to ignore that comment or that part of the feedback process. Simply right next to the last basketball court on Riverfront Park is a 6-foot elevation in the terrain, followed by roughly 300 yards of green space area. Our intention is to build roughly a 40 by 60 concrete platform on top of that 6-foot elevation. Put some trees around it, provide some shade for folks in attendance to whatever performing arts event or whatever is there, and only use roughly 180 feet downriver of that green space area before we put another cross path, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
So we're talking about a riverfront addition that takes up very little space. The pictures are somewhat deceiving.
Yeah, we got a recommendation back from the Parks Advisory Board about topography, and we know that there's a problem with adding earth to that site that then would displace water that would then go down the river and flood someone else, and you have to go to you have to go to the Corps and you have to go to other people. So we eliminated that particular part of the plan in the fact that it now does not have that 6-foot rise that's in the front. And so there are no topography changes to the site. Essentially no topography changes to the site. It's just the same way it is. And so we have no problems that way. Now the trees, we're talking about London street trees, and the way they are spaced, it is an enhancement for the viewing of the river. It doesn't keep you from viewing the river, it enhances that view. It's when I originally came with the armadillo to the mayor, my wife doesn't like the name of it either. And it really, I hadn't really put much into the landscaping. And a friend of my son's, who somewhat grew up in my house when they were young, is a professor of landscape architecture at Iowa State. He's a Harvard graduate in that field, and he had a look at my plan there, and he was right. He says, you don't have anything here. This thing really is screaming for some landscape, for something that really sets it off, that makes it really world class. Kind of like the John Deere building on John Deere Road by Sarn, and it really is a world class building. But what really makes that setting is the setting. It's a world class landscape. And everyone in the field of that kind of, landscape and architecture and things like this, people come from all over the world to just come and see it. And I think that could happen here, that this could be a real gem that could make everybody here famous.
The tree count is something that
Thanks, Tom.
Tom and I will have to debate at a later point in time. Tonight, the issue is site plan and concept, so.
Mayor, you might want to mention the potential for 2 phases based on funding.
Absolutely. Tentatively, on the Muscatine calendar, the Mississippi Valley Blues Society would like to bring a blues concert to Muscatine in September. To accommodate that, unlike the Heritage Jazz Band that was here 2 weeks ago, I would like to, at minimum, get that 60 by 40 concrete platform poured on top of that 6-foot elevation so that we can put those blues performers, again, of the arts, on display in September.
Now, the jobs I've done for other cities, it has to go out to bid, anything over $25,000, there's no choice at all. And we'd all like to have our neighbors do the work and so on and so forth, but that's just not the way it works. Now, in the case where we're going to possibly do a concrete slab and then do the rest of the project, we'd have to have more than one contract. We'd have to have just a contract just for that slab, I believe. Maybe I could get together with Greg and we could talk about that and see if it might be maybe one. I would like to see actually one contract, because to have one contractor that is responsible for the slab and the spotting of the footings and those spots where the steel has to come up from, that would be very nice to have that. But
again, in the interest of time,
yeah.
The two items that we're wanting council approval on tonight is the location and concept.
My only point in asking the mayor to note that was that if funding doesn't come available for part 2, you need to be aware that there could be a concrete
Slab.
Much the same as was on the east
on
a few
the
years ago.
green space. I just want you to be aware of that.
With a lot more footing underneath it than that one ever had. Because if you're trying to put this up, I assume your footings are gonna be below this 40 by 60 slab.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Just below the surface going down.
Yeah, the
whatever
footing
needed be,
would
so.
reach to the original track bed, you might say.
So they're not gonna be a 4-foot frost footing then?
Yeah, the track bed was about 4.5 foot down
Okay.
from where the slab is, and so we'd go down to the track bed, because otherwise we'd be sitting it on fill. And when this isn't a very heavy building, but I'm designing it for at least 90-mile-an-hour winds, which we do get down there. And that's why you have to have the footings pretty substantial. And there shouldn't be any deflection whatsoever because of the glass. And I have a structural engineer that originally I had 4-inch tubes, and I called him and I said, John, is this going to be all right? Is it going to have deflection? And he said, well, we can put a flying buttress here and a flying buttress there. You know, you wouldn't have any deflection, but if you go with 6-inch tubes, we're all golden. I said, okay. And the 6-inch tubes actually I think will work out better anyway.
Your Honor, where did the name come from?
Glass armadillo? I don't know, Jeanette.
Okay, I can answer that.
Okay.
I've instructed the Journal not to use that.
No, actually, when I first conceived this thing, I was in Africa, and I had a call from Dwayne, and he was talking about a band shell, and I said, well, whatever you do, you know, I didn't know if I was going to be designing it or not. I said, whatever you do, make sure that it's really a class act, that's the scale of it is right, that it doesn't do anything to hurt that water, that riverfront, because I love that riverfront's always been my favorite park. And I was on a park commissioner and a levee commissioner for many years under Shawland. And so I really loved the place. And that was my playground from the age 6 to 12, because my dad owned a Coca-Cola plant there on the riverfront, and my best friend lived up on the hill, and we were down there on those tracks almost every day, and we'd eat beans with the hobos along the river there. We had to bring our own beans, but we'd sit there at the campfire and eat beans with them. So I really loved the place. But when I started drawing this up, and the conception of the free glass overlapping, each piece overlapping the other, and after I got done, I said, boy, that looks like an armadillo with a head cut off. And that's where that came from. And knowing a lot of the people who play venues in bars and things like that, they always like to brag about where they played. You know, well, I played at the Glass Armadillo. Well, that really sounds kind of cool.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, have you raised the funds to pour the concrete pad yet?
No.
Okay.
We, frankly, I'm moving forward in a very cautious manner, and council approval for Site location and concept is the last hurdle, if you will, before the fundraising begins. A committee has been assembled, primarily of Rotarians, and one suggestion for a title would be the Rotary Parkway. Anyway, there's a couple of different options available. So, in the interest of time, shall we move forward, council? We have a motion and a second and discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
4-1. Very good. Thank you, council. Item 11, from the city administrator, presented for city council's consideration is a resolution approving an amendment to the 2012 Consolidated Urban Renewal Plan. The city has received a request for a potential tax rebate proposal designed to assist the owner and/or developer with construction of the new industrial facilities in the Consolidated Urban Renewal area. Consultations have been held with the appropriate taxing authorities and the required public hearing held. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution as submitted?
So move, Your Honor.
Bob, and a second?
Second, Your Honor.
Second by Phil. Any discussion, council?
You know, I have a couple of comments, I guess. A couple of weeks ago when we first heard about this, I voted to move ahead and support the project. I believed it was a TIF eligible at the time. I still think it is. But we heard an awful lot of new information tonight also. And I guess I wasn't entirely expecting that, but I guess maybe in a little bit, I'm kind of thinking out loud here. We have a situation where we can do this. The question is, should we do this? There's certainly an argument for it, and certainly an argument against it. And if I just want to make sure I have the circumstances correct, that this subject property is not eligible for the Progress Park program, the tax abatement. However, it is eligible for the TIF, and vice versa.
Correct.
And should anyone in Progress Park choose to improve their property, they would be eligible for
Existing tax
the
abatement.
existing tax abatement. I guess I don't know if there's any way to really measure the equivalency of that, other than that there is a tax benefit, and it all depends on the project. Fair statement.
Yes, it is. And there's nothing preventing us from taking it out of the tax abatement program and creating it or including it in the TIF district or a new TIF district if that's the direction the council wants to go in the future.
Mm-hmm.
At the time that it changed, the benefit was for tax abatement. Right now it's a tax abatement program in Progress Park. This development is in the TIF district.
Right.
And the abatement was already established at the 80% or whatever in the decreasing
Yes.
term. And so the only way you could compare it would be using the same dollar invested, $5 million, whatever it is. And
Now, in this case, we actually negotiated a development agreement with a specific rebate.
correct.
What exists for Progress Park is a fixed formula. You wouldn't negotiate that per contract, it's just a,
That's correct. Plus on the TIF, with the TIF district, there's other things that are negotiated as part of the agreement or eligible to be negotiated as well. For example, let's see here, well, obviously the term is negotiable. The number of years, the percentage, the maximum rebate amount, all of the other items in there. Don't forget that the developer is putting in substantial investment into infrastructure. Part of that infrastructure will be turned over to the city. Part of that infrastructure could be turned over at a later date to the city. Both of those streets are being put into city specifications so that at some point in time, at least one of those, if not both of those, could be city streets, and that investment is being made up front by the developer. That would not happen, nor is it required as part of the tax abatement program. Let's see. Legal fees are included. Obviously, we require, there's other things that we can require as part of the agreement. The job portion, the 25 jobs is a required piece as part of the TIF agreement. That, again, is not required as part of tax abatement program. So all of those component pieces that we talked about at the in-depth session are negotiated in the agreement and can fluctuate depending on the project. You know, we had 90 jobs maintained as part of the Hines agreement. The A&E program met the very minimum based on the number of jobs, the wages at their site. They did put in infrastructure on that side as well. That turn lane or deceleration lane that was added there, but they got the basic benefit of 10 years and 50%. And so it really depends on the project, and there's numerous things that you can negotiate as part of it, especially the infrastructure. Fridley, for example, put in all of that public infrastructure as part of the development, and their payment for that is the rebate of their own tax dollars.
And that would be similar, because you're putting in a 1,000-foot road in this situation.
Right. It's very similar, and you're paying for the rebate yourself. It's no other tax dollars from no other project that are going to pay for this. It's the tax dollars that particular development is putting into the project that is paying for the project, paying for the rebate. It's only those new tax dollars that are generated that are paying for the project.
So there's no, basically, TIF dollars from the South End TIF additionally going into,
No.
or any other tax dollars going into this development?
Correct. The city is out. The city is out nothing from the start. Not even attorney fees, because those are covered by the developer. No adjacent property or no other property within the city limits is paying for this project. Only this particular project is paying for itself.
And there's nothing in the code that requires that we measure a net jobs creation?
No, there's not. This is an individual negotiation when it comes to TIF. The city council has had a past practice of allowing the city administrator to negotiate up to 10 years and 50%. Anything beyond that, we take to an in-depth session and review prior to to engaging the city attorney in developing the amendment to the urban renewal plan and the TIF agreement.
And we have had TIF agreements early on that didn't have any employment requirements included, and it's still not required.
No, all of those are
Just
negotiable items.
Negotiable items within nothing it's not specified that there will be job creation in order to get TIF.
I think the biggest difference here is the amount of public infrastructure and potential public infrastructure that's going in as part of this project as well.
And how did we land on the overall number?
The 10 years and 50%.
The 5 million cap?
5 million, doing the math, it comes up to 4.9 and change. It's
Right.
it's a rounded number.
Well, the numbers I looked at last were 5 years at 100%, 5 years at 50. Did
That's
we change
correct.
it?
5 years at 100 and 5 years at 50.
Yeah, and if they would have come in and said, I want 50% for 10 years, it wouldn't have even come to council. No, I mean, officially it would have, but we wouldn't have had to make any, because we've already given the city administrator the authorization to do that. And we did that a long time ago, prior to Greg getting here.
Anyone else, council? This is a roll call, beginning with Bob.
Aye.
Phil?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
And Jeanette?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Item B, presented for City Council's consideration is a resolution approving a proposed development agreement. A request has been received for a proposed tax rebate proposal for the construction of a new industrial facility in the consolidated urban renewal area. Prior to the consideration of a development agreement, the city conducted a consultation with other taxing authorities and held a public hearing on a proposed amendment to the adopted urban renewal plan. At this time, it would be appropriate for the city council to take action and approve the proposed development agreement. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Bill, and a second?
Second?
Second, Jeanette. Any discussion, council?
Well, this is where I was going to ask about the numbers. I had a little discussion this afternoon about how this compared to some of the other recent programs that we've done. And I was just wondering in terms of numbers, how it
They've all been,
matched up?
they've all been different. A&E was 10 years at 50%. Fridley was a declining scale over, was it 10 years or 15?
15, I think.
Heinz was a 15-year agreement as well. So they're really all tailored to the individual project as much as possible, you know, in addition to the jobs and the infrastructure. And oftentimes where there's more infrastructure involved, municipal or infrastructure that we turned over to the city, there's a higher rebate. For example, with Fridley, again, that was a longer agreement. Their outlots that are included in that TIF agreement are 10 years and 50% basic. All the infrastructure is in there, everything's ready to go, that site's ready to go. So that was a 10-year, 50% program. The initial project was a much larger project with all of the public infrastructure and jobs.
And we've got not to exceed $5 million, is that right?
Yes, it is.
Is that our estimate for,
Our estimate's about 4.9 and change.
And if the tax assessment comes in at less than 18 million, what happens?
It'll be listed at $18 million per our minimum
That's
assessment.
just a done deal?
Yes,
That's
that's part of this agreement. It can come in at 18 and a
The
half. and
assessor
come in at-
doesn't have anything to say about that? No?
He can set his own, you know,
Yeah.
amount, go through his process and determine exactly what the value is for a later date. But for the next 10 years, it'll have a minimum value of $18 million. It could have 18 and a half, it could have 19, it could have 20. You know, it could come in higher. It's just a minimum amount that's set as part of the agreement.
now how will, or will the new tax reform package signed at state affect this? Because they're gonna start cutting the,
It won't affect the assessed value. The assessed value will be set through this agreement or typically by the assessor. What'll happen is it'll affect the taxable value, but it won't affect the city because we don't have an obligation to pay out until the developer pays their taxes. So whatever they pay, we'll rebate depending on the year, either 100% or 50% depending on what year it is. So it's whatever they pay out will determine whatever they pay in taxes will determine exactly what we rebate to the developer.
But the fact that the state code is now going to reduce the commercial tax rate implies that this could come in at something less than 5 million.
It could. There's potential, but that, you know, there's a benefit to the developer there as well. Obviously, they're paying less tax dollars.
Is there a stipulation in this, like the Heinz agreement? I think it was Heinz, that they actually contested their assessment, got it lowered, and therefore, was that Heinz that did that?
Yes.
yes.
Yeah, that's in this.
And we can choose to enforce that or not. That's the city's
Discretion.
discretion.
Is it in the agreement though?
And the council has to appropriate every year to cover this.
Yes, that's a newer term that we've been recommending that we include in each of our TIF agreements so that we only count the annual amount that we rebate the developer rather than the entire entire $5 million that could be rebated over the entire length of the agreement. Only that annual portion counts against our debt limit.
Anyone else, council? Okay, a roll call vote beginning with Phil,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Jeanette,
Aye.
and Bob.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Item C, presented for city council's consideration is a resolution accepting completed work for the golf course irrigation project and authorizing final payment. In October 2012, city council awarded a contract in the amount of $321,200 to Midwest Irrigation LLC of East Dubuque, Illinois, for this project. Contract modifications resulted in a deduction of $12,815, bringing the contract total to $308,385. The work has been completed, and it is staff's recommendation City Council accept the work and authorize final payment to the contractor. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution as submitted?
So moved. No.
That's Tom, and I heard Jeanette too, so I'll give you the second. Any discussion, council? Roll call vote again, beginning with Tom,
Aye.
Jeanette?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Phil?
Aye.
And Mark?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Item D, presented for City Council's consideration is a resolution setting a public hearing on the plans, specifications, form of contract, and cost estimates for the proposed Dawson Street reconstruction project. This project will be funded with money set aside from the local option sales tax funds for street reconstruction and upgrades. Prior to any formal action by City Council, a public hearing is required. This hearing will be held on Thursday, July 11th, 2013 at 7 p.m. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution as submitted?
So move.
Bob?
Aye. So moved. Second.
Second, Tom. Any discussion, council?
No.
Your Honor, just a quick note, you will see some items of, where we'll be asking the council to take action on our July 11th in-depth session in lieu of the meeting on the 4th. Just, there'll be a few other items as well.
Okay. A roll call vote beginning with Bob.
Aye.
And Phil?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
And Jeanette?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Item E, presented for City Council's consideration is a resolution setting a public hearing on the 2013 asphalt overlay project. This year's overlay work will consist of Island Road, Island Court, McIntyre Road, Number 2 Alley between Cherry and Ash Streets, parking area at Weed Park, and participation with the Iowa Department of Transportation on Washington Street from Park Avenue to the city limits. The estimated cost is $250,000 and will be funded with money set aside from the local option sales tax funds for street reconstruction and upgrades. Prior to any formal action by City Council, a public hearing is required. This hearing will take place on Thursday, July 11th, 2013 at 7 p.m. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution as submitted?
So moved.
Mark?
Second, Your Honor.
Second, Phil. Any discussion, council? Also a roll call beginning with Mark.
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Jeanette?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
And Phil?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Item F, presented for City Council's consideration is a request to approve a contract for employee assistance services. The current contract with Genesis Health Systems to provide these services expires on June 30th, 2013. The contract renewal will retain the same provisions as the current contract and will be effective for a 3-year term. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved.
Jeanette?
Second.
Second, Bob. Any discussion, council?
Is it a reasonable assumption there is no local provider?
That's correct, we did check.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Item G, presented for City Council's consideration is a request to approve the City of Muscatine's Employee Handbook. An update on the handbook was provided at the June in-depth meeting. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Phil?
Second.
Second, Jeanette. Any discussion, council?
Your Honor?
Yes.
Two quick comments. You'll note in the handbook, we did change the wording. It doesn't say common law conflict of interest any longer. It simply just cites the code to make it clear. And then in answer to the question regarding, do we need to hand out a paper copy? For those that have email, we can include a link to the handbook on the website, and that'll be sufficient. For those who do not have email, we'll be handing out paper copies.
And do you get a signature page back from those that are getting it via email?
Everybody will be required to hand a signature page back
Okay,
in.
thank you.
Anyone else, council? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Item H, presented for City Council's consideration, is a request to approve the city's insurance renewal effective July 1st, 2013. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Tom?
Second.
Second, Phil. Any discussion, council? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Item I, presented for City Council's consideration is a request to authorize the purchase of a solar battery aero board which is necessary when detouring or redirecting traffic. Bids were solicited from 4 vendors, with 1 bid received from Iowa Plains Signing Incorporated of Slater, Iowa, in the amount of $4,920. There is $6,000 budgeted for this purchase. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So move.
Bob?
Second?
Second, Jeanette. Any discussion, council?
This buys one such sign? Is that fair? Is that right?
Yes, one sign, yes.
One sign. And given all the construction we're gonna be doing in the next 2 years, is that enough?
Typically, that's built into the project and requirement of the contractor.
Okay, so then if the contractor's providing them on site,
This is for city
what are we
projects.
doing with this?
City projects mainly, or?
Primarily, Tom, we want to use this for our own projects when the roadway maintenance crew is out doing some work. I noticed this morning coming to work, the collection and drainage was over on Bidwell, and they had it blocked off, all except for one lane. This would be the arrow board in advance that would get people to move over. So I'm thinking primarily we're going to use it in-house as much as anyone, and
Okay.
contractors are responsible for providing their own.
I just assumed it had something to do with all the work on Colorado and,
Well, that's going to be a lot of work. There'll
Yeah.
be a lot of flashing stuff out there.
okay,
It won't be ours.
thanks.
Council, anyone else have questions for Randy while he's here? Thank you, Randy. Where were we? This is a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Item J, presented for City Council's consideration, is a request to approve change order number 2 for the Mad Creek Sewer Extension Project. This change order creates an increase of $16,182 for a total contract amount of $980,821.75. The total construction cost, including 2 change orders and other adjustments, is expected to be approximately $962,000, which is less than the original contract amount of $994,414.75. The project is substantially complete with only minor punch list items remaining. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved.
That was Mark, I think.
Second, Your Honor.
Second, Phil. Discussion, council? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Item K, presented for City Council's consideration, is a request to approve the letter of understanding for the fiscal year 2012-2013 audit. In 2009, the city entered into an agreement with McLadry LLP for audit services for a 5-year period. The current year's audit is the final year of this audit agreement. Audit procedures require that a letter of understanding be signed by the auditor and the city documenting responsibilities for specific areas of the audit. The letter of understanding reflects the fee of $42,750 for the basic audit and an additional $2,650 for the housing program REAC audit, which will have a separate letter of understanding. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Phil, and a second?
Second.
Second, Mark. Any discussion, council? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Item L, presented for City Council's consideration, is a request from the Water Pollution Control Plant to authorize the issuance of a purchase order for quad valve repair. Quads are the 4 tanks that hold the digested biosolids material before being pumped to the lagoons. Staff is requesting the issuance of a purchase order to Langman Construction, who is the low bidder, in the amount of $53,510 for site excavation, installation of manholes, and replacement of pavement, and to Mellon Associates in an amount not to exceed $4,000 for 4 Desuric valves. Staff will install the new valves. The total cost for the project is $57,510. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved.
Jeanette? Second, anyone?
Yeah, I have a question.
Before the second?
I'll second. That's
Okay.
fine.
Second by Tom. Now it's discussion.
Okay, I read the supportive material and it suggested that we budgeted $20,000 to do this. What happened?
John's on his way up, but we're doing twice as many as we had budgeted to do, but current operations budget is under in the electrical item, and budgeting to use those funds so that we don't have to tear the road up twice. John, what do you have to add?
The area that the valves are placed, it requires us to tear up a large amount of the pavement back there. It probably should have been planned to do 4. They were trying to lighten the blow to everybody, so they just would do it in 4 separate projects. It's going to end up being 3 projects because there are going to be 2 more valves to do later. We decided we should probably add the next 2 valves, since we're going to be tearing up that pavement anyway and repaving over it, as opposed to tearing it up again to do the next 2. It probably should have been proposed as one project instead, but it turns out we kind of came to the end of the year and decided we better just do the whole thing while we're tearing it up.
So which fiscal year are we operating in here?
It'll be on the current one.
The current year?
July 1st.
Okay. So that requires another budget amendment?
No, they'll be working within their existing budget. It will not go over.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Anyone else, council? Thank you, John. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Item M, presented for City Council's consideration, is a request to approve a contractual agreement with the Muscatine Community College for video production and cablecast services. This agreement will replace the existing 28E agreement and will be effective July 1st, 2013 through June 30th, 2016. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Tom?
Second, Your Honor.
Second, Phil. Any discussion, council? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Item N, presented for City Council's consideration, is a request from the Police Department to approve a memorandum of understanding for allocation of the 2013 Justice Assistance Grant Direct Award. The grant award is in the amount of $18,833 and will be shared with the Muscatine County Drug Task Force and the Muscatine County Sheriff's Office. The Drug Task Force will be allocated 20% of the award as required by the State of Iowa Office of Drug Control Policy. The remaining amount will be split equally between the Police Department and the Sheriff's Office. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved.
Jeanette?
Second.
Second, Phil. Any discussion, council? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, it is now time for communications from council members, beginning with Councilman Lorette.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I'd like to clarify, I don't believe we have a meeting before July 4th, do we?
That's correct.
So the first thing I'll do is wish everyone a happy and safe 4th of July. The second thing, I'd just like to remind everybody that this Saturday, there's going to be a tailgate in the Hy-Vee parking lot out on 2nd Avenue by the bypass. As I understand it, there will be a couple of Iowa Hawkeye football players there. I believe they held this event downtown Muscatine on 2nd Street last year. It was a fun event, lots of stuff to do for the kids, a beanbag toss tournament for the adults. So if you have some time this Saturday, I'd invite you to come out and check it out. Thank you.
Phil?
Nothing at this time, Your Honor.
Shiny new quarter to you, Councilman Lorette, if you can tell me Marvin McNutt's jersey number.
Nope.
7 for the record. Councilman Bynum?
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Jeanette?
Nothing, thank you.
And Councilman Tom?
Marvin's number is 7. I've said quite enough tonight, so.
Greg?
Go Cyclones.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
Well, there's 2 cents worth.
Yeah, at least a quarter's worth.
Fran?
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Well, I would share this information. Tuesday, Bob Albee, the newly solidified president of the Muscatine Community College, hosted 9, I believe it was, college officials from the Chinese province of Hebei, and they were here specifically to tour Muscatine Community College. And they too signed a letter of memorandum, and that there will be some student exchanges as well as some faculty exchanges. And today, another delegation from Hebei province, Boding, I believe is the community where these folks were from, and they're business leaders and government officials, but they too wanted to tour the college and other parts of Muscatine, to include downtown Muscatine and the home of Sarah and Roger Landy. So I anticipate a fairly steady flow of new friends from the People's Republic of China on a pretty frequent basis here in Muscatine. We are now on the map, folks. So that's all I have. Any other business, council?
Closed session.
They were the consent agenda.
Just reminded that we have a request to go into closed session.
So is there a motion to enter into closed session?
So moved.
Second.
That was Mark, in a second.
Second.
Second, Tom. Beginning with Mark, this is roll call vote.
Aye.
Tom? Jeanette?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
And Phil?
Aye.
Very good. 5-0. Folks, I'd ask that you